Ever since you kissed me this morning, it's affected me.
Well, I had a burrito for breakfast. Was it the onions?
I'm gonna say this once, and then I'm gonna let it go. And then I'm probably gonna edit for 2 hours to make this video happen, so I guess that's not technically letting it go. Relationships in Dan Schneider shows are really weird, whether it was like Josh and Mindy from Drake and Josh, Chase and Zoe from Zoe 101, and the weirdest one yet, Tori and Beck. And then Jade and Beck. And then Jade and Tori? Yeah, we have some weird love dynamics when it comes to Victorious. Not only is the second season episode called Beck Falls for Tori, which, by the way, that can't be a coincidental episode title. Like, they clearly are trying to get something out of us when it comes to fandom. They love to do love triangles that don't actually commit to them being full love triangles. Like, for example, what happens over the later half of Victorious is kind of astounding. At first, we see a progression of relationship between Jade and Beck, but it turns into something really weird, and I wanted to isolate the episodes on their own to kind of show you guys exactly how I unfolded this as a child, because even now as an adult, I'm a little still confused. I mean, like, is it polyamory? Is it two monogamous relationships? Is it a lesbian relationship? Victorious just has me asking more and more questions every day. So, I thought there's no better time to get into it. What's up, everybody? It's Johnny2000, focusing on 2000s movies, TV, and so much more. Early from season 1, we start off with Beck and Jade being in a relationship. It's completely normal, and we're just expected to accept it as the world. Sure, is it healthy? No, it's like Jade bullying Beck for most of the plot lines. It's fairly surface level on the front, and it's not worth getting into the first season or even some of the second season, because I feel like it's just such a basic concept for a relationship. What's really interesting is the tension between Tori and Jade, just in general. Like, Jade is always bullying Tori, and Tori, I mean, kind of bullies her back. It doesn't really feel like an uneven relationship, it's just a confusing one, to say the least. Sure, Beck doesn't really come to the equation. It's really Tori's relationship with Beck, Beck's relationship with Jade, and it doesn't really intercept that much until it's like forced to, and that's when we get to the really interesting stuff. So right after the second season is when we actually start to develop some tension between all three of them, and let's dive in to how it goes. The worst couple. Ooh, cool idea for an episode. This is about Sinjin putting together a newlywed game type show, and honestly, I can't believe how many times they're gonna do this game show trope. They get away with it a lot more than you think. I really like the dialogue in the opening scene, like Kat referencing the Titanic, saying she gave away the ending. That's so funny. Toy's trying not to be behind on the tech front. She really wants the new Pearphone GX, and she's worried that the new one will come out before she gets rid of the old one, and honestly, it's very relatable, especially for this point in time. So that's when Sinjin comes in to tell everybody about his little show, and I wish this was a little bit more revolving Jade and Beck before the whole plot line comes out, but since most of the main cast isn't actually couples, they find themselves having to pair off in pretty inauthentic ways. I like that Sinjin is like attempting to make this because it definitely has to do with like the Hollywood industry, and that's 100% what Victorious is usually going for. They have a whole studio audience here too. Oh my god, Tori brings a whole cord to charge her phone, which is so disrespectful. I can't believe that she did that. We finally get to see the Northridge girls. What? And they're just like sassy teenagers that they do not get along with. And who doesn't love a little bit of school competitiveness for no reason? Tori's so rude though, having her phone in the middle of like a recording. Like, that's ridiculous. So a lot of this is just straightforward a comedy bit with Andre and Kat acting like they're a couple, Robbie and Tori, with Trina being the prompt user.
Now, say hello to our query girl, Trina Vega.
Hello, Sinjin.
Tori super disrespectfully keeps her phone on her the entire game show with her cord plugged in, which that part kind of bothers me too. I kind of feel bad for Sinjin because honestly, this does not go well for him, making his game show not look like the best. So Beck and Jade end up winning for the worst couple.
I'm not happy with our relationship.
We'll be right back with more of Queries for Couples.
Which honestly is very frustrating, especially for them. And Jade ran over Sinjin. Oh my god. Okay, is that not pushing things too far? This is when I'm saying when this show gets really unhinged. Like, she just ran over Sinjin and we're just not talking about it. Tori's phone is messed up, so they actually make it relevant in the transition scenes with all these broken keyboard buttons. Very creative. So Beck and Jade actually get into a full-on argument about this in the closet. And I think Beck is actually taking this seriously, and the only conscious one in the relationship to be like, hey, maybe we're kind of toxic?
We were voted worst couple, and the other two couples weren't even real couples.
Which, yeah, they're definitely a toxic couple. It's almost like satirized to a fault, where it makes you think, as an adult, maybe these relationships are okay. Kat comes in and gets involved. Oof, that's not good. And Beck uses her as an example, which is very fair. I feel like Beck is the straight character in this show, the only one that's, like, grounded to what's going on, and yet he's rarely used, so it's kind of funny. Kat passes out for the teacher to ask what's going on with her, and they think it's the janitor, which is not cool. I hate that they're like cornering him like this. Don't show us this man as if he's like guilty of doing something. Like, I don't know, this one is just a joke in poor taste. We go back to the card table. Okay, they replace the dining room table with an excuse to keep these main characters talking. Rex is here, but it really doesn't matter, guys. I feel like Rex is almost like not focused on. He's like a joke that went on too long and now they just have to keep him here. So later, Jade and Beck show up to Tori's house, demanding why they didn't get invited, which is a very awkward situation. I can't imagine a conversation going like this in today's society. I feel like because of phones and social media, people are a lot less honest, and maybe that's why this show is a little cathartic for some people. Like, they like the quote-unquote honesty, but I do think it's a little blunt for no reason sometimes. So Jade and Beck break up pretty much in front of their friends, and it's kind of sad the way it goes down, but they have Trina to make a comedic relief out of the whole thing, which is in pretty bad taste because she just keeps hitting on him in front of Jade, and that's just very disrespectful. Jade gives him one more chance to save this relationship, and he heavily debates it, almost not breaking up with her, but she walks away. And that's pretty much it. That is the end of their relationship, which is kind of crazy because they've been together this whole series, and it definitely hits the audience like really hard that they're officially not together anymore. And just the metaphor of them both being on different sides of the door is kind of sweet, but it's victorious. I don't like giving it too much credit. They just go about their night as if that didn't just happen. If I were Beck, I'd be crying my eyes out. Tori finally buys the Paraphone GX, and oh my gosh, of course, that just has to be the positive ending. And Beck and Jade are officially not together. Okay, cool. Yeah, so a big sign of shows going off the rails is them not completing storylines, like ending on horrible notes, like this relationship. All around, I like the concept of Sinjin hosting this show. I like that Beck and Jade's relationship is finally being addressed and taken seriously. Like, there's a lot of upsides to this, and I'm actually enjoying the third season so far. Like, these last two episodes were pretty good. I think the Breakfast Bunch really got me off to a rocky start, and now I'm a little nervous for the rest of it. The next episode is Tori and Jade's Playdate. They must be struggling to give Jade stuff to do now that she's not with Beck. I feel like that was like their whole plot line. Although she can be a bully, so I guess bullying is another plot line. This episode repeats the same plot line they did for the bird scene episode, and honestly the Gorilla Club episode. Yeah, it seems like they just keep doing some of the same plots. The whole premise is that Tori and Jade need to play a couple in a play, and to be convincing, Psychowitz wants them to spend more time together. Oh my gosh. This has to be inappropriate, especially if Jade's like notably a bully. Like, can you imagine forcing your bully to hang out with the kitty bullies? Like, that's crazy. Robbie and Kat's plotline is probably the funniest in this episode. I wish the episode was named after this, but basically Psychowitz calls them up to break bad news using whatever way they can, and they decide to sing a song with Robbie on the guitar and Kat singing. They break news to this little kid that Psychowitz ran over his bike. Oh my gosh, that's so funny. And so other people start commissioning Robbie and Kat to start breaking other bad news like Andre does. And we get like a whole new song out of it. At least these songs make a lot of sense. Of course, Jade loves to be difficult and is not making it easy for her and Tori to do their project. So they give us a scene from the play that they're rehearsing, and it's crazy how intricate these set designs are, especially if this isn't like going up formally, or I guess maybe it is being performed, but like still, like this is a crazy high production. Like why would you get perfect bricks? Like even high schools don't do this. Andre and Beck play two little twins, which is actually kind of cute. Jade and Tori get into some fights as a married couple, but Psychowitz does not believe it, so he forces them to spend more time together. They bring Burf into it to keep an eye on them and make sure they don't leave Nozu and enjoy their date. What the heck? You can't force kids to stay at a restaurant and go on a date? This is insane. But Burf becomes like a consistent character throughout this show. Like he's in the Wanko's Warehouse episode and in the 4th season retrospective. Like I can't believe how much this guy comes in. So yeah, Tori and Jade hate being on a date together. We get some funny quips back and forth. And yeah, they just have nothing to relate on. Except for these two creepy guys that come to hit on them. And they are just so obnoxious.
We really want to hang out alone.
We are alone. Just the 4 of us. Bajoink!
Oh my god.
Seems like Burv and Sinjin don't really know how to step in and help them out, okay? And then we get a scene where Kat and Robbie break to Trina that she's being stood up for a date, lol. So there's just some funny bits with that, but honestly it feels like a sketch. Tori and Jade don't know how to get these guys out of their head because they're just so egotistical, like they don't even realize they're trying to ask them to leave. So they decide to jump up on stage and sing a song. It's kind of nice because this is the reason they actually connect. They relate to each other in the sense that they both don't like being hit on by guys for no reason, and that's where Take a Hint comes in, one of the best songs in the entire show. I still listen to it this day. So yeah, they pretty much call out these guys, and the guys do not pick up on it. It is insane. They involve the whole bar, and of course these musical numbers can't be any shorter just to match the amount of the plot they're using. They just show up back on stage, and Tori and Jade finally get the scene done, with all the costumes actually making this seem like a legitimate play. But here's the thing, why would you do a play with all the lights on? The entire stage is lit, but so is the audience, so I really don't know why they couldn't have at least pretended like they were in the dark. They did that for the pilot of the show, and the two guys even show up for this. Oh my gosh, I don't even believe these guys are hitting on Tori and Jade. For some reason, I don't know. All around, really fun episode, Tori and Jade's Playdate. I just feel like it called for a lot of unnecessary shipping of these characters. We gotta stop projecting our ideas onto these people, okay guys? This kind of actually reminds me of a copy of the Hannah Montana episode where Miley was worried about being rebranded, and so she had to create a new image, and that image was also goth. I don't know why we did all this goth tropes where it's like somebody would come into the set and they would be the goth character, the emotionally hidden one. The episode ends on her creating a complete standout moment that actually makes her lose all of her friends and family because of her attitude. And then they give us a little preview on what's going to happen next episode, but I'm pretty invested. I do think this is what a normal episode of Victoria should be, but hey, it's never too late than the final episode to do a plot that's really relevant to the show. But yeah, so basically we start with Tori separate from the class. Like the class is actually talking about her now, which is kind of depressing considering most of the episodes is them making fun of other people. And now it's like the girls turning on her. That's kind of interesting. So nobody's really comfortable around her anymore. And you feel really bad for Tori because she's tried so hard to just fit in, and she's just trying to fit in her new career. Like imagine me or you became YouTube famous and we just wanted to make sure we had successful things. Like of course, like it's all about how far are you willing to go to be successful, but like the moral of this whole thing is don't ever leave behind loved ones, which it's kind of randomly deep for a Victorious episode, which is what makes it feel so jarring. You're like watching this and you're like, oh, is Tori gonna make the right decision or the wrong decision? Or is it gonna end up like a regular Victorious episode where one of the characters just betrays the other? One of my favorite bits though in this special is Kat having to not eat any more Bibble, that little candy treat. Maybe just because I like candy, I can relate to it.
I like it. I went back and bought 2 more sacks.
think I might have a bibble problem.
But she literally has a bodyguard follow her throughout the school, and that's just crazy.
Here's some bibble to tide you over.
No bibble for cats.
No bibble for cat.
Beck and Jade are not dating in this, which is a really important note, actually. Like, that is one of the big consistent character through lines that this show even has, you know, like Tori and Beck, and then Beck and Jade. Like, it actually provides a lot of interesting ships, and he's the only one that's actually supportive of her, making Jade actually get really furious with her. Now, Jade and Tori's relationship gets really strained because not only is she a horrible person and kind of mimicking Jade's whole look. Let's face it, the only other person that acts like that is Jade. I don't know why they didn't just choose her for the record company. So Beck, Andre, and Robbie are the ones supporting Tori, which is actually really sweet. The friends come in, even though she's been kind of a jerk to them, and try to help her actually go through with performing at these music awards without letting anybody down. Tori ends up deciding that friends are more important than the music awards and standing up to the record producer. And you think this is like supposed to be the resolution to it all? Like, Tori is finally getting everybody on her side? Great. Like, this is going to be a very honorable way to end the series. But then Jade steps in and decides to take her place, so she literally sweeps the part from under her. Oh my gosh. There's a really prominent moment where Jade actually sees Beck and Tori on the webcam and sees them talking, and they're about to kiss. And oh my gosh, if I were Jade, I would be freaking out. This would break my heart. I feel like she's like really holding it together because it's concerning. She sees that Tori's actually a really good friend, and this kind of makes her act better. So Jade, after she sees that Tori is a loyal friend, she decides not to go out there. She literally decides to be the bigger person and lets Tori go out, completely betraying the record producer and sabotaging this entire music TV award show, which, by the way, can you imagine actually doing something like this? Like, you're on Nickelodeon and you fully go out in a completely different costume. Like, that would be insane. Jade ends up doing the right thing, which is really sweet. She kind of earns the right to date Beck again, I would say, just through her characteristics. Tori, like, respectfully stepped down from that relationship, and it makes you feel like a lot better about how the cast treats each other, because we've seen them in really poor, ridiculous times together, but this time they're actually coming through for one another, and I wish the series ended there. So next we have the 4th season, which actually is going to shed a lot of light on how all these relationships were intended. Like, it's just weird to think that Tori and Beck are even a possibility. And so the fact that we're about to get an episode that entertains it is really interesting, especially since we're coming to the era where they actually end up getting back together. So I'm almost even wondering if this was just a publicity stunt, or the Dan Schneider shows just happen to want to make this work out. I don't know. It just doesn't make any sense to me. If anybody in the comment can understand why this connection exists, please explain it to me, because I would love to know. So the next episode, we actually do address Beck and Jade's relationship, the closest thing we have to a consistent plot lines where even performing arts and acting almost take second step to. This episode's called Opposite Date, and it's more so Beck and Tori spending time alone together, how it's awkward, and puts that whole Bori plot line to question, which Bori is Beck and Tori. I didn't even know that until I looked it up, and that is the most uncomfortable ship name that I honestly wouldn't even pair them off together because of. Tori, Beck, Andre, and Robbie decide to go to the museum together to see a giant bone, but Andre and Robbie back out, and Tori and Beck realize it's just going to be awkward because it'll seem like a date. So they decide to take matters into their own hands and just call it an opposite date. So they dress casually and eat bad food, which, by the way, if you have to really plan out an opposite date with another person, I think it's a real date. I don't even know how to address this. It just feels uncomfortable. If I was Jade, I would already be upset because two people hanging out and spending time together is an attempt at a relationship. The B plot is probably the stupidest one I've even seen. It's Andre and Robbie dressed as giant hares to try to win 3 pair pad 3s, which, oh my gosh, they basically fall over and the entire episode is them on their backs.
I realize we'll probably die up here. Hungry, thirsty, alone on our backs. dressed like fruits.
Eventually, we learn that Sinjin was filming and could have helped, and he quickly abandons them on his bike when he gets a call saying that they found his mom in Mexico. Kind of a crazier backstory for Sinjin's part, and Andre and Robbie are just screwed. It does feel like a Drake and Josh type plotline, though. At one point, Tori gets on the phone with Jade, and that's like the part that makes me the most nervous.
Are you and Beck having fun?
Yeah, but you know, not too much fun.
So Jade and Kat are hanging out on their own for most of this episode while Tori and Beck are hanging out. And Jade keeps threatening Kat to try to get more info on where Tori is going, which Tori is so oblivious to all these detailed questions. It seems like they're stalking them, which they definitely are. Jade is taking things way too far, as she always does. Like, you can't just follow your friends around in a car because you think they're with your ex-boyfriend. I don't know. Tori and Beck end up taking Beck's aunt's dog, Buster, to the animal hospital for a pet emergency. Apparently, it is the furthest thing from a date it could possibly be, which, okay. Kat calls Tori one last time, and Tori actually becomes suspicious over catcalling, which thank God, because that took forever. I said catcalling. Isn't that funny? That's a funny idea. So Jade tries to cover up this whole thing.
She's suspicious. Hi, Tori! My brother locked me in the closet, so I'm really bored, and I just want to know what you guys are doing.
And meanwhile, Tori and Beck are just sitting at the animal hospital. They finally have a conversation about Jade, and they start asking questions about the two's relationship and the friendship with Jade, with a bunch of random strangers chiming in and like wanting to know all this information, which kind of feels like a meta way to have fans be asking these questions and Dan Schneider answering them through these characters. But yeah, the situation is less than ideal, but it's still something they intended to do. This stupid opposite date, it just feels like they're together at some point. Jade ends up coming running in, getting super furious.
Wow, Tori and Beck are here. Who'd have thunk that they'd be... I mean, what a coincidence. Oh, who am I kidding?
And Tori and Beck are super guilty and like trying to hide what they're doing, which makes them feel guilty in the first place. She tells Beck that he can hang out with Tori or anybody he wants to because they're broken up and that's cool, which, oh my God, that's been like 5 episodes. You're just telling him that now? I mean, that should have been something established when they broke up, but whatever. I'm surprised they're not ripping each other's heads off, because if this were a real middle school, it's like a lot harder to be friends after the situation they had. And they just smile at each other, and Tori is just uncomfortable in the whole situation. I can't tell who won in this episode because it felt like nobody. Oh, and spoiler alert, Andre and Robbie are still on their backs by the end of the episode, not being saved, so Dan Schneider gave up on the fact that he wanted his characters to have happy endings. Like, it's one thing to have things go wrong as constantly as they do, for people to treat each other as negatively as they do, but to not come back on top at the end, not have like a full circle moment, is really annoying. It makes me feel like this sense of defiancy that we must have liked this show as teenagers because it was just actively rejecting normal cultural society, like act nice, be polite. It's a gimmick of all things. So the next episode we have is actually relevant to the show's plot. It's called Tori Fixes Beck and Jade, and I wish it wasn't this on the nose because it kind of bothers me that it almost gives away the entire ending. But hey, I'm along for the fun and the ride of it all. So there's this girl named Meredith at school that wants to hang out with Beck at the Moonlight Dance. Oh, cool. They're having another dance. That's not normal. Beck is clearly nervous because of his old relationship, so he's telling this girl he has to count coins and can't go with her. Why is that an excuse, Beck? We find out, like, Tori is taken to the closet, janitor's closet, for Beck to tell her that Jade was jealous of this girl Meredith once, so it's gonna kill him if he asks her out. And Tori's just like, why would you live your life like that? That's what inspires her and Andre to start helping Jade move on, so that way that could be all behind them. Which is actually a really genuine thing to do for Beck. Like, Tori does not have to go that far for him. The B-plot, again, is pretty ridiculous. It's Robbie taking care of a butterfly. It's a lot more him and Kat-centric, which is kind of nice, because this is definitely a ship episode, seeing what these couples would be like together. And yeah, the butterfly flies into Kat's ear, which is a problem I gotta admit I've never had, nor as an adult or a teenager. So Tori ends up pitching Jade to everybody she knows, like, not even as a relationship, but just to ask her to the dance so she could have a little bit of hope that there's another future for her.
But Jade can be so much fun.
which, by the way, Jade, there's not. You're gonna end up back with Beck. Spoiler alert. So since nobody asks her out, they get this guy named Gilbert to do it by paying him. Oh my gosh. But this guy gets way too scared, breaks down, and admits that he was paid to ask her out. Of course, she gets super furious and confronts Tori and Andre, which, fair enough, I feel like that makes sense. When they explain they were only trying to help Beck go out with Meredith, she says he could date whoever he wants, which is kind of like the opposite date plot. And when she finds out, she like immediately tries attacking Andre and Tori.
I gotta take this and kill you both with it.
How could you kill us with toilet paper?
They end up back in the janitor's closet, which, why isn't this just a main part of their set? I feel like they're always here. Beck figures out what's going on, and, it's so awkward, but Jade just kind of says, enjoy your cupcakes, and moves on. Meanwhile, Robbie's still trying to take care of this butterfly, but since it's in Kat's ear, I guess he has to take her to all the things that would need to be used for the butterfly. He makes a butterfly cage, and Kat has to put her head in it, which, oh my god, these plots are getting so weird. We're not even, like, hitting tropes anymore. We're just hitting, like, nonsense. Andre's grandmother and Trina Vega get into a funny argument in the crowd at the Moonlight Dance, which is actually so funny. Meanwhile, Beck is on his date, and this is the only time we ever really see him interested in another girl, which kind of makes sense. I don't get it. The butterfly plot gets resolved at this dance by having Andre's grandmother scream into Kat's ear to let the butterfly out, and I don't know how that ends up working, but I think the writers are just getting lazy at this point. So Beck opens up to Tori that maybe he's not interested in this new girl. He's describing what he wants in a girl. And of course it sounds like Jade, like he wants a girl that'll push back and have strong opinions. Oh my gosh, Beck. And then of course Jade, goes up onto stage and starts singing a pretty good song actually. This one doesn't bother me so much. I mean, Five Fingers to the Face is always going to be my most hated song on earth, so anything will be an upgrade from that. And this exact moment is why people watch this show, for the ships, for the singing and musical numbers. This just happens to have all of that in one go, with Beck and Jade finally making up on stage at the end, which I still don't root for these people. So this moment doesn't seem romantic to me. It just seems toxic. It seems like they're in a crazy cycle and shouldn't always be together, but they have codependency issues. Oh well, that's every relationship at this age, so let's just move on to the next episode. So all around, these 4 or 5 episodes, they are what define a weird, toxic trio of dynamics that I just don't know how to explain. And I don't know if the writers even thought it through too much. Like, at first I was like, okay, this is very intentional. They're trying to build different relationships, but then they don't necessarily ever intercept with each other, except for when Tori goes platinum, which is actually a really admirable moment for Tori, but everything else just feels like thrown together. Like, they didn't even intend on continuing the series after the 3rd season, so why am I to believe that they had a plan for getting them back together? You know, like Tori and Beck ended up being a whole new idea for that new season. All around, yeah, really confusing relationship. Thank you guys so much for watching Johnny 2000, and if you want to check out any more of my other videos, I usually dive deep into 2000 shows season by season and kind of go up with a thesis. I like to really look back at my childhood and, like, take all the lessons away I can. So please check out my other videos, whether it's Zoe 101, Sweet Life of Zach and Cody. I've covered a lot of stuff on this channel. Thank you guys so much for watching and your ongoing support. This has been, like, my dream to be able to just talk about kids' TV shows. And, yeah, I am not planning on stopping anytime soon. If you haven't yet, please check out my new musical, The Consequences of Victoria Gray. Last time I'll throw it down your guys' throats, just because I really want you to give it a listen. I really was inspired by musical teen shows that I grew up with, and if you're a Victorious fan or a musical fan in general, I think you would be into it. Thank you guys so much, and have a great day!